What's going on, guys? Welcome to a brand new series of episode reviews. This is going to be for Shenmue the animation. With me, as always, I have Loosepade.
Yeah, we even before this came out, I think it was announced like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Back then, and I didn't even know what to think about the show before this. Like, we didn't know like how much this was going to be adapting, and from what we heard before this came out, I think the producer stated that it was going to be at least 12, 13 episodes, and it was going to adapt the first two games, which had me a little bit confused and a little bit worried at the same time. And they also confirmed that this anime was in development, I think, around the same time Shenmue 3 was in development. So there would be no way for them to adapt the third game into the show, even if they wanted to.
Right. Yeah, so that was like the number one thing that concerned me as well when I heard they were going to be doing Shenmue 1 and 2, and that it was supposedly this is going to be only 12 to 13 episodes. And that's, I guess we're to assume this is going to be like a single core series. Like, it's just going to be, there's not going to be like it's not going to be like a full like 20, 24, 25 episodes or something. So just right off the bat, like if they really are doing Shenmue 1 and 2, my main concern is that it's going to be incredibly rushed if they're going to be adapting both stories at the same time. Or, both stories in just a one, like 13 episode season of an anime. But I was like, I don't know. Hopefully, like I said, that might not be how they're going to do it, but it sounds like that's the route they're going to take with this. So, yeah. But of course, we have the first episode that actually aired on Adult Swim first and then was put on the Crunchyroll, which they have actually done with some other series too, which is an interesting idea. But I was a little bit disappointed that we did not get the dub version for Crunchyroll as well. We just kind of got the sub, which is fine. I mean, I just thought it would have been cool to have the option at least to watch it dubbed on Crunchyroll.
Yeah, they kind of did the same thing with another show called Fena, the Pirate Princess, and they mainly showed the dubbed version on when it aired on not Crunchyroll, on Adult Swim, and then they only showed the sub version on Crunchyroll. And apparently they're going to be doing the same thing for this show as well. Yeah. Now, as of right now, for Fena, they still have yet to update, the dub version into the Crunchyroll streaming site. So I don't know whether or not they are going to do that, or maybe we'll have to wait for the Blu-ray release for that one. I'm not sure how that's going to work though.
Yeah.
But yeah, the episode, for whatever reason, they started off like literally at the ending of Shenmue 2. I mean, spoiler alert, that's how the episode starts.
So right off the bat too, like I said before, I was already concerned. And then the way that the episode starts also kind of had me a little bit worried, because it's like, yeah, we're starting right at the end of Shenmue 2. Like, this is the last scene from Shenmue 2, with the same kind of monologue that the character, well, her name is Shenhua, that she gives in the game at the beginning of Shenmue, but except she's standing on a cliff, like giving that monologue. I'm not exactly sure why they decided to like make this kind of change, and why they didn't just adapt it the way it was in the game. So that also kind of worries me, because it makes me think that they pretty much are going to be doing both Shenmue games and like a 12 to 13 episode series, like just them showing this, which, like I said, I hope it is going to be like actually like a full season, like a split core or something. Like, that's all I can hope for, but I don't know. But yeah, like, it is a weird way for them to start the series. There are some other, of course, like creative changes, I guess you would say, that they made in the show, as when handling certain parts from the game, which I can kind of understand why they did certain things. There were certain new things they added that I did like. I guess we can kind of get into those as we go through the episode, though.
Yeah. So the beginning of the episode shows Ryo like getting ready for a karate tournament that he's participating, and of course he easily wins like every match that he's participated in.
He literally just punched the guy once and he won. Like,
yeah, that's pretty much it. See how like he pretty much how skilled he is in martial arts. And then soon well, it's only like I think what the first 5 minutes of that episode. That pretty much that's pretty much it. And then we immediately get to to where the game originally starts, which is of course Ryo's father getting assassinated by Lan Di, who is of course the antagonist of the Shenmue games.
Yeah. Like, of course, before this, the new things they added, the stuff with the tournament, and then just everything that happens before the game actually starts with Lan Di assassinating Ryo's father. They also show Lan Di just driving in the car to go, basically to go assassinate him, which some of these things were actually interesting new additions. But yeah, like, of course, Ryo goes to see his Lan Di having, I guess, somewhat injured Fukusan and what was the woman's name? The older woman. That.
Yeah, I forgot their names.
Yeah, but of course, like, then we see that Lan Di.
But it's almost. Yeah, it's almost shot for shot similar to like how of how the game went. Like the old woman is like on the ground, like injured, and then I think what was the other guy gets kicked out of the dojo, and then we see the fight between Ryo's father and Lan Di, which of course Lan Di easily takes him down, and then of course Ryo like tries to take a shot at Lan Di, but they show how Ryo gets that little scar on his left cheek. I think in the game, like, he already had that little band-aid like on him before that fight, but it shows it like how he got injured in the first place. And then shot for shot it shows like Lan Di demanding where the mirror is, and then he forces Ryo's father to tell him when he threatens Ryo's life.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course eventually Ryo's father caves and tells him that the Phoenix mirror is buried under the cherry tree. And then like Lan Di eventually he releases Ryo and ends up leaving, but before he leaves he says that Ryo is not strong enough to fight him yet, which I think apparently was a new addition. Like, I don't think he told him that in the game. So yeah, of course, then he leaves and Ryo's holding his dying father. I forget exactly what his father says to him. Like, he's basically just like, I forget exactly what he said. But yeah, like, of course his father dies. Lan Di also says something before he kills Ryo's father, that he's apparently taking revenge for some man that Ryo's father supposedly had killed. So this is something that Ryo kind of wonders about throughout the first episode, is that why it's also part of like why Ryo decides to try to find out why that Lan Di killed his father, and then like if his father really did kill somebody.
Yeah, and then of course the episode skips, I think, a few days after the incident, and then where Ryo contemplates on whether or not he should go out and avenge his father, and we pretty much get like sort of like a slice of life segment with him hanging out with his high school friend. I think what was it, Nozomi?
Yeah, Nozomi. I actually didn't recognize. I didn't know that was supposed to be her at first, because she does look kind of different than how she does in the game, actually. But yeah, that was actually supposed to. Yeah, that's Nozomi. Nozomi is kind of like she's pretty much like someone who's one of Ryo's friends, and also just kind of, I guess you would say, potential love interest or something from the game. But yeah, we kind of, I like how we see some more, I guess, they do talk in the game, but it seems like I don't know, I could be wrong. It seems like we see more of their conversation, or just them talking in the anime. We get introduced to her, and we get introduced to some other characters like Tom, the guy that runs a hot dog stand, who's always dancing outside the hot dog stand. It was kind of funny to hear, like, I don't know how he sounds in the English dub, but in the Japanese version, it sounds like his just really bad Japanese because he's saying like random words in English. And which is kind of fitting because he's just kind of he more so comes off as a comic relief character in the game because he's just kind of usually you find him dancing around the hot dog stand, and you'll ask him for information about stuff, but he's always just kind of like making like a bunch of jokes or just dancing to reggae music, I guess. So it was kind of funny to see how they handled him in the anime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what was it? Ryo and Nozomi try to go to Tom's hot dog stand, but he's forced to close up shop due to like I guess one of the black limousines that Londi was in ended up scraping the stand, so he had to close up shop, and then it pretty much forces Ryo and Nozomi like to eat another place at a ramen shop somewhere in what was it in Yokosuka?
I think so.
Was it or was it? Yeah. I forgot what city they were in, but it's of course the series takes place. I think it was the
1980s.
Yep, 1980s around that time. Yeah, and so Ryo of course goes back to the dojo, and he ends up running into like one of the major bosses that you frequently encounter in the first game, named Chai. And of course, initially Chai has the initial.
I should also mention too that when Ryo and Nozomi go to that place to eat, somebody like offhand, like kind of because this is actually a clue that you. So I should mention. So this is something that kind of changed about how the anime plays out. So in the game, after your father gets, Ryo's father gets murdered, he goes around like asking random people about the black car. Where sailors like to hang out, etc. You basically go around asking people a bunch of these different questions, and they'll tell you, give you a clue, and then Ryo will follow up on the clue and ask somebody else about another clue that you find. And as you gain more of these clues, Ryo will write them down in his notebook. The way the anime decides to do this is that, somebody will mention something about, a potential clue or some kind of lead that Ryo decides to investigate, I guess. So in the anime, like, Tom mentioned the car, and then when Nozomi and Ryo go to the restaurant, I think the guy there mentions, somebody there mentions, I guess the sailors, which is, I think, the next thing that Ryo looks into in the game. So I understand why they did it this way, but as somebody pointed out, they didn't like how, this kind of takes away from the investigative, I guess, aspect from the game where you actually kind of look into these things and like, trying to investigate it. Where here it just seems like the clues are kind of falling into Ryo's lap in a way. And I kind of agree. I think that's kind of, I kind of wish they would have done it a little bit differently than just have it, have these things just, randomly, just by chance Ryo happens to come across the clue he needs to find. To get to the next point in the story, so to speak.
Yeah. I think this is more evidence that this is how the show is gonna end up being handled, just by skipping a lot of the a lot of the side mission stuff, which made sense, which would have like kind of dragged out the show a little bit. So they had to compress that for time.
I do understand to an extent why they're doing it this way. Because they're, the way the game handles it, they obviously couldn't have him kind of running around and asking a bunch of random people these questions like, how they did in the game. But like I said, I just feel like they maybe could have handled this a little bit better, and they could have done this some other way, I guess. Because as it is, it feels kind of like, Ryo just kind of gets lucky and somebody just tells him where to go, basically. But yeah.
Yeah. So back to the fight between Ryo and Chai. I did like how the fight choreography was in the anime. Yeah. Like I didn't think like the animation was going to be that good. Same thing with the animation with the fight between Londi and Ryo's father. I thought it looked pretty decent at first. Initially I was worried that they were going to do some frame skips here and there, but it seems like they kind of did a decent job with some of the fight choreography.
Yeah, I actually thought the fights, surprisingly, yeah, everything looks great in terms of the way that they're animated. So the fight between Rio and Londi actually looked pretty good for the most part. Or not Rio. Well, Rio Londi and also
Chai.
Rio and Chai. Yeah. But yeah, like so. Yeah, Chai's a character that doesn't really show up until later in the game, like maybe about halfway through the game, I would say, because you encounter him randomly at times and you have to fight him. So him showing up early, I don't know how to feel about that either. Like it's another kind of another change that they implemented for the into the anime. So I'm not sure what they're gonna do with that with this change. If I guess Chai's gonna be showing up earlier on in the series to fight Rio at certain points. But yeah, of course, like Chai initially gets the upper hand and kind of beats up Rio, but eventually Rio kind of finds. Well, he has like I think it leads into a flashback sequence where like he was, I guess, sparring with his father, and his father kind of taught him that, I forgot what his lesson was. It was like you need to you can't be so aggressive. Like you have to
someone accept that people are stronger than you in some way.
Yeah, so basically after this, like Rio it decides to basically look. He kind of changes his fighting style, and it ends up more so just kind of defending against Chai's blows and countering eventually, which Chai ends up being beaten back by Rio and just leaving. So yeah, I thought it was interesting that they decided to do this. But like I said, I am a little bit concerned that Chai's showing up so early as the first episode.
Yeah, I feel like they're definitely going to take some liberties with certain parts of the storyline, particularly like how they did like earlier on in the episode where they added the karate tournament before Londi assassinating Rio's father. Mm-hmm. So I do feel like I feel like they're going to take some stuff out of the game, but add some stuff in there that wasn't in there in the first place.
Yeah, I think so.
Another thing we forgot to mention that we do get to see, like, for whatever reason they had a scene where they swapped to Shenhua's perspective for whatever reason.
Yeah,
like she was just in like what?
Yeah, they showed Bayou Village. Yeah, I again, this is something else I'm not sure exactly how to feel about. Like, the thing I liked about the first game is that you really don't know much of anything about Shenhua, and first game and in the second game too, not until like near the end, where you don't really know much of anything about her. And I kind of like that mystery element. But I feel like they're not going to do that in the anime. They're going to show more like of Shenhua's life or something, while also showing what Rio's up to.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. It just feels weird the way they're handling, already handling this right now. Mm. To be honest, it's just and of course, like it's like it's already further evidence that they are going to adapt the first two games just based on the way how the episode starts with them already showing off the ending of Shenmue 2.
Yeah, I mean, because they're already kind of especially since they're showing more of Shenhua. Yeah, it leads me to believe that's what they're going to do. But I did like how they kind of ended, like, speaking of changes, this was one I actually did kind of like, was that the way they ended the episode with like Rio basically telling, I remember what her name is now, Ine-san and Fuku-san, that he's going to be, because they were talking about how they're going to call the police and how they're going to have them, investigate what happened to his father. But then Rio was basically saying he's pretty much saying he's going to look into it himself and find out the truth and find out what happened. That's pretty much kind of where I think, the first episode ends off. And I mean, it was, for the most part, it was decent, but like I said, I have some concern about where they're potentially going to be going with the anime and like how they're going to handle it.
Yeah.
I did like the opening though. That was pretty, I thought it wasn't going to be that great, but I ended up enjoying it a little bit more than I thought. I also found it was kind of funny how they actually implemented the forklift into the opening too. So that kind of leads me to believe they actually will be showing some of the stuff from the forklift parts of the game in the anime.
I think that was more of an
It could
Easter
have been an
egg, if
Easter egg, or
anything,
I don't
maybe.
know,
I
but
don't.
maybe not. I guess I guess we'll see what they're gonna do with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, well, for the animation studio that made the show is Telecom Animation, and I think they did another show. I think it was Tower of God. They worked on. I think of a year or two ago.
Yeah.
I forgot what else they've done. I think. Oh yeah, they also did Lupin as well. So, but yeah, overall the animation quality is pretty decent so far. But we'll have to see like how the show is gonna look moving forward, like and how exactly they're gonna actually adapt like the first two games.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about it. Like, it, I will say, like, the episode in and of itself was fine, but I feel like I am repeating myself, but I just, like, again, I just can't help but be concerned for how what they're gonna end up doing with the story, in terms of just adapting the plot of Shenmue 1 and 2. Like I said, I can understand them cutting out certain things, but I really hope that they're not going to rush through it the way I think they will. But I guess we'll just have to see about that. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
Yeah, I feel like this show is tailored more to the fans of the game. I don't know how someone new might get into this and maybe watch this. Maybe it might pique their interest into playing the games after watching this show. But as we know, like the Shenmue plotline is not finished, especially like after how Shenmue 3 ended. It's still not done, and we don't know whether or not for sure they're even planning on making a Shenmue 4 at this point.
Yeah, anything having to do with Shenmue 4, as far as I know, is pretty much up in the air. I mean, yeah, Shenmue 3 was already just enough of a kind of in and of itself, like people thought it would never happen. So I mean, just the fact that Shenmue 3 even happened is pretty crazy. So I mean, Shenmue 4, I have no idea what if that's going to happen at all.
Yeah, unless someone puts up another Kickstarter for that game, but I have no idea how they're gonna move forward with that project.
Yeah, but so that all being said, I guess this airs on that comes out on Crunchyroll on Sunday. So I guess that all being said, until next Sunday, we will see you all next time.